always check out tacticalconsiderations.com because I can post any link I want on my own website. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. So I've jumped right into the SIG 320 game with a couple of recent purchases. One, I started off with that M17, then I got the X-Carry RXP, now the RXP full size, that X frame. So if you don't know what the RXP, RX, X-Carry, all that stuff is, you can literally almost get lost on SIG's website. You're trying to figure out the difference between doing Roman numeral math and which new range hammer you're trying to pick out for yourself. So the RXP is not the X series where like the plate and the sight is all one. It's more the traditional side. It's got the suppressor height sights, comes with that Romeo 1 Pro, but you do get that X frame, which allows you to add a mag well and do some other cool stuff like 21 round 2A Pez dispensers, which everybody loves out there on the range. More Pez, the merrier. Just use it sparingly because things are tough right now. So there's a little bit of a new look going on around here, and that has to do with so much stuff that's going on in my house right now, between some stuff that's being moved, some construction things that are coming up, just a lot of changes. But if you do like this look a little better, let me know down in the comments, because if you do, I'll keep going with this look. Now, I had stayed away from the SIG 320 series for a while due to some known trigger issues that were out there. If you don't know, there were a couple of lawsuits that SIG did recently settle, claiming that they had no responsibility on their end. Basically, they weren't drop safe. So they were dropped multiple times and even just hit with a hammer from the back of the slide. And they were detonating that round. That round was going off when it wasn't supposed to be. There was a fix that SIG came up with. You can check out their website for that fix. All the ones I have, this RXP, my X-Carry, and my M17, all have the fix. And then, of course, the X series stuff has a completely different trigger in it from the curved triggers that come in the M17s and the regular SIG 320s. So if you have those concerns, you don't have those concerns, I really want to know in the comments down below what your feelings are about those trigger issues in the 320s. Because at this point, SIGs are kind of like a scooter, maybe a little bit fun to ride, just don't let your friends catch you. And that goes with a couple of other things in life as well. Now, since that trigger fix was rolled out, I have been a little bit SIG curious, I'm not gonna lie, but I have owned several SIGs over the years, the metal stuff, the 220s, and I've got a chance to fire a bunch of other SIGs throughout my life. And I've had them, and like I said, I just never really felt bad about selling them and getting rid of them. Not that I dislike the SIG brand. There just were things that I felt were a little bit better, maybe ergonomically or fit or function just for me. That may or may not be the case. And if you are a SIG-alicious fan, let me know what your preferred model is down in the comments. Now, recently I did that review on that M17, which I did like quite a bit. And I was really just curious to get my hands on it, run it. It has that new updated trigger, even though it's not the grip safety version of it. I really wanted to know what the choice was. You know, Big Army went with that, the Air Force is going with that, and I was really curious to see what it was. Now, I know the modularity of the SIG platform, being that the frame is just another part. It's not like other striker-fired setups. The actual trigger module, which is fully removable, you can put from frame to frame to frame, that's the serialized piece. So the modularity is really awesome in that frame, because you can go from compact to full size to X frame, whatever you want, it is there. And that was something I really wanted to dig a little bit deeper into. But like I said, I was a little bit apprehensive due to the known trigger issue. And if you look back, you know, the Army required that manual disconnector or some form of trigger change. And think about how long ago the Army knew about that. And then when that trigger came, actually came, kind of lets you know how long that issue may have been known about. Now, that M17 was definitely a blast out there on the range, but it was a little bit different, and I didn't really pick up on what it was until a subscriber, a viewer, mentioned it to me. Said it felt like a ball was in his hand, and that was it. It felt good, it shot great, I was very accurate, but I noticed the feeling like almost like I had a stress ball in my hand. That was because of the kind of bubbled front and back portions and side portions of the factory 320 frame. Now, I will say the X frames, massive improvement. The overall feel of this thing, so much better when you press it out. Just a huge upgrade. And then that polymer 80 frame is out as well. If that video is not out, it will be very soon. That's a huge step up as well, because it gives you much better ergonomics over that factory 320, and maybe a little bit better than the X frame. Now, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. If you're liking or learning anything here, definitely hit that thumbs up button. I'll leave links for pretty much everything you see down below, but you know, YouTube doesn't like a lot of stuff. Always welcome to check out my webpage, tacticalconsiderations.com. Everything I've ever done is there. All the links are there. If you're into that SubscribeStar thing, that link will be down below as well. We are going to get deeper into the SIG. We're going to talk about all the specs on this, how the trigger works, break all that stuff down, show you the trigger module, because some of you out there may be new to the 2A game, new to the SIG game, and just not know how that works. So before we roll into that range footage and how this thing really felt out there on the range, at least to me, I'm gonna start spotlighting like one product that I feel is really good and that the viewers should know about. Today, that is gonna be the Savior range bag. Now, if you have not checked that out, definitely look at my review on that thing. For the cost, that thing is just bang for the buck, the best thing you can get out there for the quality and the cost that I have found. And I've tried a bunch of different range bags over the years. It's kind of like a sore pee-pee. You just can't beat it. Yeah, I just said that, but it's really worth looking into. Let's go ahead and dive into this range footage and really get a feel for how this thing performed out on the range. Now, when it comes to any new setup, especially something that's a drastic change like this from whatever you may be running on, you're gonna wanna do tons of dry fire just at your house, getting out there, pressing that trigger, and getting used to it. Now, once you get out on the range, I like to do certain drills that kind of familiarize me to that new weapon, and that is gonna be one of which is kind of like the build drill, or whatever you can do. Just reach, either from low ready, picking it up off the counter if you're in an indoor range, or from the holster, pressing out and getting, anywhere from like 3 to 6 good shots. Now, the build drill is 6 rounds. May not be a good idea to waste all 6 rounds at this point due to ammo, but I like to do those drills to kind of work up to that. You draw, maybe you fire 1, then maybe you draw and you fire 2, and then maybe you draw and you fire 3 or 4, 5 or 6, and you kind of see what your control is. And the reason I do that is because it's breaking me into the trigger, to the sight alignment, how it feels, the recoil impulse, and that is going to help you out on the range not only become more proficient, but it's going to help you really dial yourself into that new setup. And of course, you'll see on a couple of mine a little bit of trigger freeze because this trigger is really different than some others. And I still kind of struggle with the SIG trigger. It's a little weird, like I said in another video. It's just kind of dry firing this. It just kind of happens. It's not like that really hard glass break. It just kind of goes and just happens. So it's a little bit weird, but it definitely feels better live fire out on the range. Now, the reload drills. One, it's gonna help you work on your speed, work on your angles, getting that magazine at the right angle, and bringing that frame back into the right angle. But it's a lot of fun, and it just keeps one of those basic skills up to par. Should you need to do an empty gun reload, which in all honesty, you should probably do in tactical exchanges, not empty gun reloads, but they're just fun out there on the range to do. One of the best things you can do is your transition drills. Now, by transition drills, you can be transitioning from one pistol to a rifle, rifle to pistol, or you can be transitioning from target. Both of those are going to help you out. One, because you're now acquiring this, pressing it out and going from one target to another target. And what I do out there is I do what Tony Cowden said. I really dive into that first target and then I just rip the gun to the next one. I don't find that I have problems realigning my sights or, the gun moving around on me. I literally just rip it to the next target because my eyes are already on it, so my body knows where to stop. Huge shout out to Tony Cowden because that really helped me speed up my pace, especially when it comes into the next drill that I love running, the Bear Standard. Now, the Bear Standard, great drill, works on a ton of stuff here. 4x6 square, 4x6 square, 3-inch circle, 5 rounds, empty gun reload, center punch 3 into that hole. You're working on everything from trigger cadence, a little bit of accuracy with a smaller target, working speed, all the good stuff in there, draw, point of aim, everything there, everything is there almost. Everything is there. It's a really great drill. If you don't do it, ton of fun out there on the range as well. In just a minute, we're going to go through all the specs on this thing, the trigger pulls, and we're definitely going to show you how that trigger works because that seems to be a lot of people's favorite, learning how that trigger actually functions and works. But if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I look through the analytics and I see that a lot of you out there are watching long lengths of the video, but you're not all subscribed. So remember, I've got only not these things to feed, but I got a little pit bull to feed, so help a brother out. Subscribe to the channel. Let's go ahead and get into the specs on this thing, do those trigger pulls, show you what it's all about right now. All right, everybody, we're gonna jump into this SIG RXP-X. So I'm going to read you the model of this because it's absolutely crazy. And this is coming right off the SIG website off my cell phone. Literally, you're trying to figure out whether you're doing Roman numeral math. This is the 320 XF9BX R3 RXP, and then it's got like a 10-1M. My lord, just pick a name and go with it, but they gave it so much. So it's technically the 320 RXP X full size. That's because it has the X grip. So that is the difference between the RXP and the RXP X. Holy God, SIG, thank you for confusing that. Now let's get into these specs right here on this thing. We know this is a 17 round bad boy right here, but you get, yes, the 21 round fun sticks that we all enjoy out there, except for those communists. What this is gonna come with is the 17 rounders right here, but due to the lip on the front, they do not work with the X Series magwell. SIG, figure it out, make it work. Otherwise, I gotta buy aftermarket plates. What are we talking about here for the rest of this thing? So this is going to come with your Romeo 1 Pro optic, as you can see on there, and then it's gonna come with a nice set of SIG X-ray sights, and I can tell you right now, these things are blazing bright, and I actually like them quite a bit. Nice serrations across the backs. Right there, they're mostly darked out. You get a little bit of glare off the tubes, but they're darked out, and the serrations keep you from having that glare. So pretty nice there. Overall length on this bad boy, 8 inches. It's a long one. Overall width is 1.4. Height on this thing is going to be 6.4. These are all in inches, and then it's got a 4.7 inch barrel and a weight of 30 ounces. So she's a little hefty. Okay, sight radius, meaning the distance between the front and rear sight, is going to be 6.6 inches, which is solid. Got a 1913 pick rail up here, which my Streamlight is on. Very good stuff. We all know it's striker carry. We all know it's polymer. You guys should be into that already and know it. Carbon steel barrel frame material, or carbon steel barrel material. Stainless steel on the slide here and everything. And then it's that nitron finish is what SIG actually calls it. So it's a solid setup. Everything you should expect. Now let's walk around and talk about the details of this thing other than what SIG tells us. X grip, far better than the regular 320 grip, and I'll bring my M17 in to show you the differences here in a second. Magwell is aftermarket. They don't come on this version because the mags that come with it don't work, like I said. They just don't work. But the 21 rounders, God love freedom right there. Good stuff. Move up, great texture on here. We have a single finger groove up there on top that you can see. Works quite well. I actually kind of like it for getting a hold of that thing. Texture follows all the way around the back strap, cuts just short of that nicely extended beaver tail right there, which you can see gives you a lot of meat, a lot of area to get a hold of that web of your thumb and your pointer finger. Really help you control that recoil impulse. Moving up from there, nicely sectioned down here, because these controls are quite nice here, both on left and right side. They are ambidextrous for slide, stop, slide release. Good job on those. Plenty to get onto. A little bit extended, and I like that. So the other version of the SIGs I've seen, it looked like they were a little tighter. Moving forward, got your takedown button. Nicely rounded off in here. Not much of an undercut or double undercut, but better than other manufacturers. Got that X trigger, which we'll get into more here in a minute. And moving forward, you know, that pick rail, we've already kind of talked about that. Let's work across the back of this thing. Striker fired stuff looks really similar from behind. We will kind of take this apart, give you guys the nuts and bolts. Not going totally in depth. We'll talk about that mechanism, how the trigger actually works. Nice, good serrations, both front and rear here. Chamfered down slide, you can see all the way across. It's chamfered, so you can come over, you can come under, whatever you got to do to work that slide, come off your optic, whatever you got to do to get the job done out there. Nicely chamfered up here in the front like that, in case you want to put this on that full X5 style frame. It'll fit the ends very, very nicely. Coming across the top, standard looking barrel, everything as normal and what you would expect in here, standard looking extractor. Go ahead, break this down. It's a little bit different than some other striker fired stuff. You don't have to pull the trigger because this has a manual disconnect in it, which you are activating by pushing down the takedown lever. Push that down, comes right apart. I'm under 1,000 rounds on this bad boy. Okay, I think I'm probably closer to 500 actually, being 100% honest. I just stopped counting. Barrel is wearing exactly as I would expect at this point. No undue wear. Slide is wearing exactly as I would expect. I did notice on the SIGs, they do wear just a little bit more right in that area, right towards the hood. On the carry version, the barrel actually wore pretty good, which I guess is just kind of normal for the SIG thing. So we'll go ahead and leave this over here for now, and let's talk about how how this trigger actually works. So we'll talk about the manual disconnect in a second, but I'm going to reset this and kind of explain to you the parts. Let me throw the spring back in here and make this a little easier. Okay, so we got a couple moving parts back in here. First one I want you to pay attention to as I grab my tool is going to be this arm right here that comes up. Okay, this part here is your sear. You'll see it has two edges. That's kind of a secondary safety, and the sear moves up and down. And your trigger bar in here, as you pull the trigger, it's actually pulling this arm right here forward, which pulls that arm up and then pushes the sear down. Okay, that's basically how the trigger works, but what's this little nubber right here sticking up right there? Well, that's a manual disconnector. So basically, you push that down, it fires, that goes down as the slide reciprocates. As you let out on the trigger, pops back up, and it's going to reset everything. Let's go ahead and talk about that disconnect really quickly so you guys understand what I'm talking about. As you rotate your takedown lever down, you're going to see movement in the slide lock slide stop, and then you're going to see this. Let me get the camera to focus in for you. You'll see this arm right in here. Let me try and get a little bit better light for you. It's going to move forward. You see it kind of right there. This arm. Now you basically have a dead trigger. This arm will still come up, but the sear won't move. Once you push that back, manipulate the slide lock or put the slides, you now have a fully functional setup. So that's a secondary safety device. So you'll see up here on the striker, we're going to have a blade right here. This is your striker safety that I'm pushing in on. That's your striker lug. So as we are pulling the trigger, that little arm that's going up right there is what disconnects that blade safety. Now, this thing won't stay straight up because of the optics. So that disconnects the blade safety. As you pull the trigger further, that sear goes down. Okay, that releases the striker lug. So it goes bang, and then the slide comes back. As you'll see in the slide, that notch right there is what that arm right here fits up into. As you pull the trigger, it goes bang, the slide comes back, it hits that, pushes it down, and that allows the sear to come back up so you can start the cycle all over again. Give you one more view about that. So you fire it, it goes bang, this edge right here gets pushed down. Watch the sear engagement. You see it pop up, slide comes forward, the lug of the striker grabs that, your trigger is reset. That's how the trigger works. Now as far as the striker, we'll go ahead and show you that. Why not? Very easy to pull out. All you're going to do is push down on this button right here and push forward. Keep your thumb over it. Spring tension, but probably not going to come out. This is your extractor, depressor, plunger safety. Once you pull that out, your extractor is going to fall right back in there. This is held in by that little notched edge right there. So you'll see kind of a little edge on that. Right there is what's going to lock it in. We'll go over that a little bit more once we put it back together. Striker assembly comes all the way out. You'll see it's quite an interesting one. Kind of a little bit of H&K, a little bit of CZ, all that stuff. The safety for the striker is included in it. Over this part right here, which is actually the striker housing, and then the actual striker can move freely in there. Not going to break this thing all the way down today. That'll be for another video. So we'll put this back together. Make sure when you put your extractor back in there, the barrel edge always goes in like that, right there. It won't go in the other way, but just so you know. Now that little edge right there is going to capture your extractor just like that. You can see it capturing that edge. Go ahead, put your back plate back on. Very simple. Push down on it a little bit and up. There you go. And then you're going to push down on that again and it will lock in. Double check that. Everything else, can't believe I just did that. Everything else goes back in there as usual. Let's go ahead and pull this trigger module out. Push this back down. Disconnects it, and all you're going to do is pull straight out on it, and your trigger module comes right out. That's the beauty of these things. That's the part. This is just a piece of plastic. You can change it into whatever you want. put it back in there. It's just going to be the reverse operation of how you got it out. Make sure that that notch goes in here like this first to get you in place, and just push it straight through. Can be a little bit of a booger sometimes, but it will go through. Right there. It'll lock in place, press it back down. Go ahead, put her back together, run your functions test. And there you go. Finishing off that grip, bring in the M17 and tell you what I'm talking about as far as feeling like a stress ball. So you can see how it kind of bubbles out here on the back, and it kind of bubbles out there in the front. Kind of gives you the feeling like you got a ball in your hand a little bit. So the standard grips feel quite a bit different than the X series. I like the X series just a ton more. Let's go ahead and do a couple of trigger pulls on this, and then we're going to get rocking and rolling with the rest of this video. I pull low on this one because I ride my finger low, because the lower you go, the lower you get. Pretty standard right there is what I've been seeing. Just a little under, about 2 ounces under. It's about 4 pounds and 6 ounces. We'll do 3 pulls, as long as I don't mess something up and they come back relatively similar. All right, so there's 4 pounds, and I want to say that's about 4 ounces. 4 pounds, 4 ounces. So again, very close. One more. A little bit over 4.5 pounds that time, just by a hair. Might have been me, but that's it. That's looking good. That's what it's all about on the SIG RXP X Full. Let's go and wrap this up, talk about trigger, talk about the feelings of it a little bit more, and what's coming for the SIG. I have to say, this was, again, another tough review on this thing, because much like the X Carry RXP, I just didn't have that high of expectations until I shot that one, and then I shot this one, but I tried to stay unbiased because I really had a great time with that Carry version. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave the link down below. Now, I really think there is just a ton of positive here on this pistol, and if I really have to dig, there may be a couple of things that could be considered negatives. One, for the cost, give me the magwell, SIG. Just give it to me. Don't make it an option. Just put it on there. Most people are going to want it. But that's kind of a preference thing, so it's almost a wash. Now, the magazines. If you have the magwell, you can't use your standard 17-round mags unless you change the base plate. But I've got these 21-round Pez dispensers, which is awesome. Everyone likes 21-round Pez dispensers, especially out there on the range, except for commies. Commies don't like high capacity or standard capacity Pez dispensers. But the rest of us, Americans, we love it. The optic cut here. So Delta Point Pro, Romeo 1 Pro, widely carried, so again, that's kind of a preference issue. This one doesn't have the shroud. My Carry version does, but that's kind of a wash, and if you want to run an RMR or something else, just buy the other plate, throw it on there. But that can be a little bit of a downer for some people. But as far as the rest of this thing goes, I really do think there is a ton of positive. The modularity, the better X trigger, comes with the optic, comes with those really great super high-vis night sights in there, which is a big plus. Now, the X frame, I just wish it had the magwell. Kind of a buzzkill, you don't give me that, and then the 17 rounds don't work, but there are aftermarket solutions. But SIG, really, figure it out, make your mags work with everything. Now, I'm really curious for you, the viewers, are you SIG fans, are you not SIG fans? What's your chosen preference when it comes to SIG? Or maybe you don't like them at all. Either way, let me know down in the comments below. Make sure you absolutely hammer that subscribe button, like the video if you learned anything or thought it was good, and let me know how you like this kind of setup, because I may be stuck doing this for a while, and if it turns out that you guys like it, I may just stick with this view rather than the opposite where you see everything behind me, the safe and all that, which was kind of bland, but some people kind of liked that. You can also check out all the other social media stuff. Instagram, it's always at Tactical Considerations. If you're interested in getting on board with that subscribe star, huge thank you to all of you. Again, I have some of that exclusive content coming up again for you. That link will be down below. Links to everything else, always check out tacticalconsiderations.com, because I can post any link I want on my own website. You guys get out there, enjoy some range time, check one of these out if you're into it. Stay safe, stay ready, stay dangerous, and I will see you guys on the next one.